I just cannot get enough of the hubris and the gall of the central planners gathered in Davos, Switzerland, who think the sun rises and sets only on them, and that they, and only they, should be the ones to dictate to mankind across the globe how their lives are going to be lived, what will be allowed, what will not. They'll be the ones to dictate and decide for you what you get to do, like it or not, and you better keep your mouth shut. And they're so confident that no one will do anything, they're pushing harder and faster, but people are noticing, and people are saying no. Elections in Italy, the Netherlands, and soon in Germany are showing the massive rejection of the globalist one world government mentality. But let me share with you what they think right now in Davos. Let me share with you what the WEFers think they have already pulled off. Listen.
But if you wound up with a different president who was opposed to climate crisis, I got news for you. No one politician anywhere in the world can undo what is happening now. The marketplace is doing this. And the only issue for all of us is not whether or not we can get or will get to a low-carbon, no-carbon economy globally. We will. The only question is, will we get there in time to meet the challenge of the scientists in order to avoid the worst consequences of this crisis? That is what is at stake.
Yes, John Kerry Hines and his four horsemen of the apocalypse, including Al Gore, Klaus Schwab, and George Soros, think they have already won this, that you will be trampled underfoot and have nothing to say about it. I think the God complex they're suffering from has gotten the best of them in their golden years because the rejection is coming. And I'll get to that in a moment. But first, more on the plans they have to drive you and your country to its knees, whether it's here in America or any place on the planet where there's a modicum of freedom still alive and well. First, a major priority, controlling the food, all of it. Controlling the production, the harvest, the distribution, all of it. And they're now learning firsthand that farmers in Europe are on the front lines of freedom, pushing this back down to where it came from, the depths of socialist hell. And as I said yesterday, I can't believe some of these people are saying the stuff out loud. Listen to how the World Economic Forum views farming. You know, the process of cultivating food that feeds the entire human race. Here it is.
I mean, ecocide as a word is becoming better known around the world, and the concept is generally mass damage and destruction of nature. But legally speaking, what our organisation and other collaborators aim to do is to have this recognised legally as a serious crime. Because one of the issues that sort of pervades all of this discussion is that we have a kind of cultural, very ingrained habit of not taking damage to nature as seriously as we take damage to people and property. And that, I mean, you know, if you're campaigning for human rights, at least you know mass murder, torture, all of these things are serious crimes. But there's no equivalent in the environmental space. And so, you know, unlike an international crime like genocide that involves a specific intent, with ecocide, what we see is actually what people are trying to do, what businesses are trying to do is make money, is farm, is fish, is do all of these things that are, producing energy and so on as well. But what's missing is the awareness and the conscience around the side effects, around the collateral damage that happens with that.
Yep, you heard it right. It should be a crime, you hear me, to commit ecocide, like farming or fishing, feeding your family. Ecocide, just another made-up word from radicals. And by the way, I have a solution for them to pursue today. If they really believe that ecocide is deadly and dangerous to the planet, no problem. I can help them solve that. Just don't eat. Ever. I mean, if they truly believe the crap coming out of their mouths, then don't eat. Because if farmers are the enemy, then the real enemy is the people who actually want to consume a couple of meals a day. And they can set the example quite clearly for everyone by starving to death and reducing their own carbon footprint. At least they'll be reduced to zero in a short time for those folks. But the globalists, the WEFers, they want to starve humanity, but they want you to remain calm and not fight for your life, your family, or your country. I mean, if you don't mind, could you please just starve to death quietly? You think I'm joking? Listen to this.
We are so far, globally, we are so far above the population and the consumption levels which can be supported by this planet that I know in one way or another it's going to come back down. So I don't hope to avoid that. I hope that it can occur in a civil way, and I mean civil in a special way, peaceful. Peace doesn't mean that everybody's happy, but it means that conflict isn't solved through violence, through force, but rather in other ways. And so that's what I hope for. That we can, I mean, the planet can support something like 1 billion people, maybe 2 billion, depending on how much liberty and how much material consumption you want to have.
An utter lie that has been told since 1970, maybe before. They've been telling us for decades that we're not able to feed ourselves, and yet somehow every year we produce more food using less land and less energy than the year before. In fact, let me just tell you this. A perfect crop in 1985, perfect rain, perfect sun, perfect everything. Your yield is less than it is today for corn and beans on a field that is hit with drought in 2023. That's right. In conditions that would have destroyed a crop in the 1980s, we flourish. What he just said there is a complete load of crap. Again, I'm not going to go quietly and starve to death, but if that's what they think is best for others, I say again, they should lead by example. I am more than willing to watch people like that clown to see how they approach this one. But farming, which they claim leads to this fantasy called man-made climate change, is just one of the enemies. A bigger threat may be the flow of information. I mean, if people like me have the nerve to continue to sit here and tell you the truth about this fraud, it may cause other people to stop and actually think about what's happening and what they're seeing. And if they do that, they may actually realize they're getting lied to every single day by clowns like that guy. And if that happens, well then, it may lead to an awakening of common sense in this country, good God, which of course is very dangerous to the agenda being pushed by the globalists and Davos. So it's time to focus on keeping everyone silent that may dissent from the globalist theology and to revolt against the cult and the cult leaders.